My name is Karen Drono. I am an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, your fellow colleague, and I'm going to be your moderator for the day. So this is just like a flight. It was about to take off and we experienced a bit of turbulence, and it's normal. So my captain, as usual, took charge, and I am part of the cabin crew. So my work was to be delegated for responsibilities, and so far I think we're doing a good job with the team on the background. Today's conversation is very interesting because the moment Captain mentioned that we are going to do this, there were a number of questions that were raised. And as I introduced the topic, I just want to also tell us, especially as young lawyers who started our own practice, it is essential for us to be comfortable in running the practice and essentially understanding what that is about. Because we lose out on a lot in terms of how we run our things. We run it in a very traditional manner, or you run it according to how you saw your boss doing it. Hence why we're having today's conversation, to at least help us in terms of streamlining, whether it is in the sense of setting it up appropriately or running it in the course of basically executing the functions of your firm, and the winding up process. And this is especially for people who've decided we are no longer setting up, we're no longer wanting to stay in a law firm or private practice. So we want to wind up the law firm and go into other interests, whether in-house or otherwise. For that particular reason, we are having today's conversation, and it's basically, today's conversation is designed to give us an idea on how to strengthen our operations and structures within the firm. With that in mind, allow me to introduce our host and convener. Our host and convener is none other than Mr. George Okenyo-Omansa, who is our senior in practice. If it is not for him, I guarantee you I'd not have my practice running, because I am 2.5 years in practice, but my law firm is actually 1.5 years. And if you knew the previous regime, things were completely different. You would not be able to operate your law firm if you're less than 2 years in practice. Today's conversation will be focused on basically understanding the law firm policies, and like I said, it's part of a bigger project which I'll mention after his introduction. So for those who don't know him, though most of us know him because he was a council member once, who really is Mr. George Okenyo-Omansa? So I will say the formal bits, but as he introduces the session, he'll have to tell us something that we don't know about him, in the sense that we know the structured man. For others who've met him within LSK, they probably met a social side to him. But for us who are getting into practice and have been in practice but have not had the opportunity to interact with him, who exactly is? So we're going to leave that burden to him, but introduce him officially. Mr. George Okenyo-Omansa is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. He was admitted many years ago. I say many years ago because I'm still in practice, but to be specific, on the 11th of March 2010, he is the proprietor of Okenyo-Omansa and Company Advocates, where we are currently seated and located. It's a very beautiful space, and once we figured out our video situation, you will see part of the setting. His office is actually at Mirage, a very interesting space if you've been here. He has deep institutional knowledge, having served both in leadership roles and within the legal profession. He's an associate member of CIAB, Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. He's a certified mediator. He's a certified legal auditor of public listed companies. He's a commissioner of oaths, a notary public, a patent agent. And this is just listing but a few of his qualifications. Notably, he is a former council member, as I mentioned, and has served as both the convener for Practice Standards and Ethics Committee and the Audit Risk and Compliance Committee. He's also served as an alternate member to the Advocates Disciplinary Committee, where, unfortunately, if you met him there, you met him with what we call Suraya Kazi. So with such deep understanding, he decided to sit down over a couple of months, I'm not sure years, he let us know, and consolidate his institutional knowledge, practice, and experience, and just try and help us understand what it means to run a successful practice and what policies are this. And now the surprise bit is, whatever we're discussing today is supposed to be now part of a book that he's authored, and he'll tell us more about it. So for me, whose first question was, are you running for office? Is there a bigger picture to this aspect? I was thoroughly disappointed because I was told, no, I have zero interest in any political campaigns. And as far as I'm concerned, I want to give back to the profession. So he'll tell us more about it and probably will make a few announcements toward the end. But for today's session, allow us to introduce this particular. It's going to be a set of many sessions, so tune in and just stay on with us even as we make certain announcements. So with all that information I've given you, allow me to introduce my senior and one of my favorite advocates within the profession, Mr. George Omwansa. Welcome again.
Okay, thank you, Karen, for that introduction. I think you've just laid it bare. You asked me to tell the audience who George Omwansa is, and I believe there's nothing much or there's nothing more than meets the eye. Basically, there are only two sides of me. The serious one, of course, the professional one, and the other natural me, the me that you'll find on a lazy weekend, somewhere just laughing. So, with that in mind, I want to thank all of you for joining. And first and foremost, let me also appreciate the team that is working behind the curtain, around 4 or 5 people who are really doing their best to make sure that this one, the webinar goes live. Most importantly, they are broadly classified into several categories. And these categories are, they are policies that touch on the client relationship. They are policies that touch on human resource. They are those that touch on technology, security, and operations. They are those that also touch on finances. And of course, one of my favorite, which is disaster recovery and business continuity policies. At the tail end, we've got termination and exit policies, and I will have an opportunity to explain them, though not in detail, but just to give them a scratch on the surface. And lastly, we've got policies on health, safety, and environmental concerns.